Welcome back to the Mani and Fariha show. We now have a very special guest. His name is Sachin Patel. And I met Sachin at a speaker slam, which Mani was scheduled to speak at, but that's okay. Next time.
Yes, there's always next time.
There is always next time. The topic was health and fitness, and he was one of the judges. He is actually a functional medicine practitioner. Welcome to the show, Sachin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what exactly does a functional medicine practitioner do?
The main thing that we do is we approach a patient's case from a different perspective. So instead of treating the symptoms or treating the disease, we actually look for the root cause. And so our primary premise when we work with clients is that there's nothing wrong with their body, but there's something wrong with the way they're using their body. And so the body's not making a mistake, it's simply responding to the inputs, the diet, the nutrition, the mindset, the relationships, the environments that the person puts their body into. And so our current medical system assumes that the body's doing something wrong, when in reality it's usually the user that's the problem. So it's like the difference between giving the car the speeding ticket and giving the driver the speeding ticket. So
that's a great analogy.
Yes. So it's the way we use our body that really results in chronic disease. And so we help people uncover what those underlying issues are. And so functional medicine looks at cellular health, it looks at hormone signaling, it looks at environment, it looks at relationships, it looks at all the different things that can impact us.
It seems like a big picture approach to the whole situation.
It's a big picture approach, but it's also a cellular approach. So we look at the cells because the cells make up organs, organs make up systems, and systems make up health. So instead of trying to change the system, what we try to do is we try to change the signal and the health of the cell. So we get really small, but we also look at big picture like lifestyle. How much sunlight is this person getting? How much time in nature are they spending? What are their relationships like? What are their finances like? You know, are they doing?
It all has an impact, right?
It all does.
Little mind, body, spirit connection.
Right, exactly. And you can't give pills for these problems. And so what we try to do is we help people understand how to resolve these issues by taking action and, you know, really getting to where the problem is starting and not treating the result of these underlying issues.
So very much a holistic approach.
Yeah. We always talk about, and being myself a medical practitioner, you know, we always talk about holistic approach and how to approach our patients and how we could, like, everything, you know, under the umbrella. So it's just
dealing in oncology, Mani, you probably have a lot to talk about with Sachin.
And I myself had actually never heard about the functional medicine practitioner or practice, you know, approach. So tell me more about, you know, personally, I'm very now interested, you know, in hearing, you know, because now you're talking about not just the body and functions, you know, you're talking about all of the other aspects, you know, what can impact your life. You
know. Micro and macro.
Exactly.
Right.
So you're talking external and the circumstantial elements that can affect your health and that can impact it. So what are the cues that you're looking for? The person should be looking for that, okay, this is my cue, then I should be approaching not the doctor, not the pharmacist, not the nurse. Oh, it's time for me to go to the functional practitioner.
Well, the first thing is that what we want to realize is where this fits into our system. And so functional medicine is really complementary to traditional medicine, because if you look at the lab testing that's done, if you look at the diagnostic testing that's done and the interventions that are provided, traditional medicine provides some of those, but then functional medicine kind of works in a complementary fashion because it looks at looks at testing of the mitochondria and methylation pathways and catecholamine production and neurotransmitter metabolism. So now we're looking at how this body actually functions instead of how it breaks down. And so the application of this, you know, approach works universally. It works for performance care, but it also works for illness care, because the goal to get somebody performing at a high level or somebody healing from an illness is to fix the cells and fix the signal that we send to the cell. And so we capitalize on a field of study called epigenetics. And epigenetics is how our environment and our dietary inputs and our emotions actually controls gene expression. And so through nutrition and environment and all these other elements, we can start having people express their full genetic potential instead of suppressing it or altering its expression.
Wow, that sounds really technical.
Well, it may sound very technical to the audience and listeners, but again, where you're coming from, Sachin, it totally makes sense, you know, where he's saying that it actually complements to the existing medicine. And
that's by design, right? That it's supposed to complement and be compatible with and work in amalgamation.
Well, there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a time when we need surgery, there's a time when we need medication.
Yes.
But we want to delay that as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, most practitioners don't want to give their patients medications. They want their patients to make the lifestyle changes.
So prevention is better than cure.
Right, exactly. And it's much easier to prevent something, but most people aren't given the instruction manual, right?
And that's what you're there to provide?
Right, and we have to kind of think of the nomenclature that we use as well. There's a difference between a user manual and an owner's manual. So we have to remove our idea that we're using this body and that and get into the idea that we own the body.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that it can work for us if we work for it. But if nobody tells us what those rules are, in terms of how to take care of it, then the expectation is that we should get sick. And we shouldn't expect anyone else to be able to fix us unless we're willing to fix ourselves first.
So as you said, there's no fixed time and place for this. It could happen, or it should be any time for anybody,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
So it's not that you have to actually wait for it to get sick, or it only happens when people are sick, and when they're going for the other medicinal or therapeutic modalities, then they're coming for you. So it can start for us anytime. It could be now, that we can get into the preventive medicine, and it goes hand in hand
take
with
advantage of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that you said, Sachin, which is of interest to me, is you said performance. So are you training people to be the best performers in their own life?
Well, really the best version of themselves, right? When we get them functioning optimally, when we get their biological systems functioning optimally, their digestion functioning optimally, their nutrition dialed in, their mindset dialed in, then the application of this works in professional athletes, it works in executives, and it works in people who are really sick.
Yeah. And I think mindset is of paramount importance because we all know the benefits of diet and exercise, but how do we actually establish a practice of it? So please give us an example of what a client can expect working with you.
So the first thing is we start with a very thorough history. And so we have clinicians, just to be clear, I don't see patients, I have practitioners in my office that do. I actually train practitioners, so that's what I spend most of my time doing, is training doctors all over the world on how to implement this type of medicine into their communities. And so when a patient comes to see one of our practitioners, we have a 46-page intake form, and we go through that with them.
That sounds very detailed.
It is because it's the most important asset that person has.
Yes.
Right? So if we're working in that capacity with somebody to change their life, to transform their life, to change the trajectory that their entire family legacy is going to go in, then it's actually not enough information, right? The more information we have in this area, the better. And so from there, we can determine what functional lab testing is most appropriate. Usually we do the organic acid test, which looks at their cell biology. And then we also do a stool test that looks at their microbiome. And the microbiome is essentially the majority of our cells in our body are actually in our gut bacteria. So that's where actually 99% of our genetic information actually comes from. So only about 1% of our total genetic information is human DNA. The rest of it is bacterial DNA. So
in our colon.
In our colon, right? So the health of this system actually determines the health of the entire organism. And
you know what, that makes a lot of sense when we're saying, what type of, are you making up? It's already in there.
Right, it's already in there. So we have trillions upon trillions of these cells, and how these cells interact with each other and your immune system then determines a person's health. And the ability to assimilate and absorb nutrition from the food is also determined by this microbiome. So we do testing on that. And then we also do what's called a hormone metabolite test. And a hormone metabolite test isn't just looking at the values of hormones, but it's looking at how these hormones are being metabolized. So estrogen is a good example. A lot of women experience things like cancer and
I was thinking PMS.
Yes.
Well,
that's what the first thing, with the estrogens, we always think about it.
Even PMS. So these are issues that are not necessarily hormone related, but they're hormone metabolite related. So estrogen, for example, there's 3 different forms of estrogen, and estrogen gets metabolized down 3 different pathways. But that's not visible on a regular blood test. So through a urine test, you can actually see which pathway that estrogen is being metabolized out of. And that can determine risk factors for certain chronic diseases in women. And even in men, we can see what's going on with them in a much more detailed way.
Wow, this is so fascinating.
Wow, I am so I'm setting up my appointment with you. Sure. And we start off with the blood work.
Not with him, but with one of his practitioners.
Yeah, one of my
practitioners. Okay, so the starting point is that this is where, so what's the pathway? I just want clear pathway in terms of, what's the starting point and how we can get on it?
Sure. So the first thing that we try to do is we try to keep people out of our office. And the way we do that is the way we do that is by educating them. So we know that 80% of people who see a practitioner, usually if they were given the tools and resources to take care of themselves, they actually don't need the doctor. Yeah. And so there's millions upon millions of people, and if we understand the magnitude of the problem, we can't help all these people. We have to teach them how to help themselves. And then you have a group of people, maybe 10 to 20% of people who actually need some sort of functional or medical intervention that's not lifestyle or self-induced. So these people then come and then we look at their blind spots. We also do, we have a Facebook group where I do a weekly Q&A so people can ask questions. We do whatever we can to...
And is that an open group session?
It's a closed group that anyone can join.
Okay.
And so what we do, and we can share the link for that, but we try to keep people out of our office. We try to empower them, and then once they...
Kind of the concept, give a man a fish versus
I just
teach
like
a
the
man
idea of
to
staying
fish.
out of the office,
Yes.
Yeah, and it allows you to scale too, right? So I can do a video and it can reach thousands of people, but if I'm in my office seeing somebody one-on-one, then it's very limited in my influence that I can have. So that's the first thing, is how do we keep you out of our office?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, let's give you some tools and resources to make sure that you're actually going to do them. Because if you're not going to do them,
then what's the point?
Before you come in, then when you come in to see me, you're going to pay me a lot of money to tell you something I can tell you for free, right?
Yeah.
But if you do those things and you're still not better, then there's more value in what I do. So we try to get people to focus on getting their, a few things in check. And the two most important things for any human being to get in balance is blood sugar, and the second one is their circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm is actually...
So eliminate the sugar and get enough sleep.
Well, right, and you want to sleep at the right time. So every animal and plant on the entire planet regulates its biology with the rising and setting of the sun. And so when we invented artificial light bulbs, full spectrum light bulbs, it actually tells our brain that it's still daytime. And if you want to heal, you have to sleep. And if you want to heal deeply, you have to sleep deeply. And so a lot of people, and you probably see this in your practice, a lot of people have issues with sleep. So if they're not sleeping, they're not healing. It doesn't matter what pill, diet, supplement, drug, whatever we give them, that when they're in that
melatonin,
right?
Yes.
And so when they're in that parasympathetic state is when they're healing. And not just one system is healing, but every system is healing. So the thing people the thing that people have a hardest time doing is nothing. You tell them to go to bed early, they can't do it. You tell them to meditate, they can't do it. You tell them to breathe, they can't do it. You tell them to take it easy, they can't do it. You tell them to go on vacation, they can't do it. But this is when the body heals. And the simplest question I can ask people is, how do you feel when you're on vacation? And most people feel amazing. So I tell them, listen, so it's not your body, it's your environment. It's the situation that you're putting yourself in. And so when we change that environment, you feel better almost instantly. Within a couple of days in vacation, people feel like they're a new person. And so that proves to them instantaneously that there's nothing wrong with them. It's how they're driving and the conditions in which they're driving in that's causing the issues.
A lot of it sounds self-inflicted.
Yes.
Well, it's self-inflicted because of ignorance, right, and a lack of knowledge. Because most people may not realize this, but the word doctor actually means teacher. So it's our job to educate our communities, and we do a free workshop every Saturday when I'm in town. So tomorrow, actually, we're doing a workshop on thyroid health. So there'll be about 120 people there, and we teach people how to take better care of themselves. And people are looking for information, and this day and age, information has no value because it's free, right? I can go on my phone. I can go on my phone and find information, and what people are seeking now is wisdom. They're looking for someone to help them.
And there's a difference for sure between knowledge and the information and wisdom.
Yeah, so they're looking for someone to take that information and figure out what of it applies to them, if any of it, right? And the thing with our practice that I think is different is the approach that we take, in the sense that we don't place value in the office visit. We place value in what happens after the patient leaves. Because regardless of what they pay me or pay our team members, if they don't take any action, the value is zero. But if they take action and they apply this information for the rest of their life, and apply it to their family and to their children, grandchildren, it really leaves behind a legacy of health. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get people to raise healthy families, to raise healthy children and grandchildren, because that's the most important asset that we have at the end of the day.
Absolutely. The generational wealth is their health. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Sachin.
My pleasure.
It truly has been a
Very
educational.
Absolutely, for both.
Thank you.
And we truly appreciate it. And also, all of the information is right here on the screen for you to access. And if you really want more information on, you can always visit Sachin Patel's Facebook page, and they can also join the group.
Yep, they can join our group.
And every Saturday evening, as he mentioned, there is also
When he's in town.
Yes, when he's town, there is also a group workshop.
Session.
Yeah,
you can attend.
We actually have a really good program that I want to mention to everyone. It's called 30 and 30.
Right.
So the website is 30in30.org.
Okay.
And that's where you opt in and you get 30 of my best tips sent to you, 1 tip per day, and you can start executing and implementing those tips into your life.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Another thing which I get from you, Sachin, and I'm very grateful for is your generosity of spirit. You could be charging, I'm certain, a lot of money for this, and you're just like giving it away, because I really see your passion in what you're doing and to be of service to humanity at large. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So thank you so much, Sachin, for being on the show. Hasn't it been great, Mani?
Absolutely. Very informative segment for all of us. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as
much as we did. So we will be taking a short break, and we will be back with you very soon.